All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. My name is Michelle. I'm joining from Amisquachie, so Edmonton, Treaty 6 territory. We got a whole pile of snow this morning. So a new season is right around the corner. We have the winter solstice in 1 week from today and full moon this weekend. So lots of good stuff happening. So I hope wherever you are, you're safe, you're well, you're walking with ease, and you're just honoring your spirit creator, and you're honoring that beautiful land, the gifts of Mother Earth that are all around you. So before we get started, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the goodness of Creator. December's a very busy season for all of us, year end, and sometimes just taking a moment to look back and see, how we walked through 2021. And, all along the way, Creator has been right there. So we just take a moment to acknowledge and honor and give thanks to Creator, Kinanan Skomtanan Creator. Thank you for the gift of this day and the gift of this moment, this beautiful virtual circle that we have with Can Do. You've joined Links to Learning. So welcome, welcome. I am so excited that we have 3 entrepreneurs. So today is Women in Business. So we're looking forward to hearing their stories. I have my pen and paper. I'm ready to take notes. I'm so excited to have our guest speakers. I know you all lead busy lives, and the fact that you've pressed pause on everything just to come share, come to inspire, to motivate, drop your story. We are very, very, very honored. There will be an opportunity at the end for any questions or comments, or if you have any questions along the way or comments along the way, or even to use those reaction buttons, please do so and use that chat box as well. All right, so we have 3 panelists today. One is published in the World Federation Association of Teachers Educational Journal. One is the founder and CEO of a company that Forbes has named the top 19 innovative tech startup as one to watch. And one recently was nominated for a WIBA in entrepreneurship, and earlier this year was one of 3 finalists in the Excellence in Manufacturing Award from Niagara Business Awards. So we got some phenomenal folks here on our panel who are going to talk about their business, going to talk about entrepreneurship, the highlights, the exciting times, but also just being real as well. So we are so honored that you are here. So I'm going to just start by asking our first question, which is, you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself. You're going to tell us about your business and where you are from. So we're going to start with Vanessa.
Thank you, merci, Michelle. And I have to say, Michelle, I love your energy. If you aren't in media or journalism, you need to be, or have your own show, because your energy is contagious. I love it. So Tanche, everyone, I'm so glad to be here in a circle with all of you. And thank you for having me as part of the panel. My name is Vanessa Lesperance. I am a mixed heritage woman, so European settler on my dad's side, and proud Métis woman on my mom's side. Me and my ancestors on my mom's side, we're all originally from Treaty 1 territory, otherwise known as Winnipeg, but have relocated out to the beautiful lands on the Coast Salish territory. So I'm joining you today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Kakite First Nation, also known as New Westminster. And I'm joining you with my business, The Mindful Managers, and the work that I love and that's dear to my heart, which is through the Lift Circle. And we co-create the conditions for Indigenous women entrepreneurs to thrive. So hi, everyone.
All right, April, I also know that you pitched your business at Powwow Pitch. So tell us about yourself, your business, and where you're joining us from.
Sego, Garla Guatse ni Yongyats, and Awarla ni Wagi Darlodon, Ganigahaga ni Waga Juan Jodon. So my Mohawk name is Garlaguatse, which means that I shine fiercely, which is pretty funny for someone that has a jewelry business. My English name is April Mitchell-Boudreau. I'm a Turtle Clan Mohawk with roots at Six Nations, and just a proud member of the Mohawk Nation. My business is called Lofttan, and it's big anti-energy in our business because Lofttan stands for all initials of nieces and nephews. So when people drop a T, I'm like, you can't do that because Trent and Tristan, we got to have both those T's in that name. So Lofttan Convertible Jewelry is all about celebrating the wearer, celebrating your creativity, diversity, and the ability to change your mind and change your look. We make everything here in our studio, which is located on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people. I'm Haudenosaunee as a Mohawk woman. And we absolutely love what we do. We ship all over the world, and we're just excited to facilitate creativity in everyone that we come into contact with. And yes, we did powwow pitch, and OMG. It's such a thing to do, and just so honored to be in incredible company with so many wonderful Indigenous entrepreneurs right across Turtle Island. So, miigwech, nyawa.
Wow, wow. Glad to have you here, April. And Bobbie, you're joining us from Calgary. Tell us about yourself, your business.
Awesome, thank you. I heard powwow pitch was amazing and really fast and try to, lots of movement, which I was going to sign up for it, but I didn't. And hi everyone, I'm Bobbie, the CEO and founder of a company called Virtual Gurus. And I actually come from Treaty 3 territory in Saskatchewan. My parents and my family and all of them still live there. I just moved away because I wanted to come and start a company out in Alberta. So here I am. Virtual Gurus is a talent as a service platform. And what we've done is created a platform where people can work remotely through the platform with businesses and entrepreneurs of all sizes. The thing that makes us different is we are a company of diversity. So all of our contractors are people of diversity, whether it be 95% of them identify as female, and 65% are part of the BIPOC, so the Black, Indigenous, people of color community, and 45% are part of the LGBTQ community, while we have 20% that are people with disabilities, veterans, etc. And we built the platform where anybody in North America can use it, and it's just been scaling pretty large right now. So I'm happy to be here and to talk all things tech and scale.
Yes. Yes. All right. So then the next question is, how did you come up with your business idea and your business name? Like, I love Virtual Gurus. So let's go with you, Bobbie. How did you come up with your business idea and name?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a funny story, but like I used to work in oil and gas here in Alberta, just like everybody else. That's actually what I was doing. And everybody was getting laid off, and I was a high angle safety foreman. So I basically climbed up on top of vessels and rappelled down and saved people that were in the vessels. And while I was doing that, I knew that it wasn't necessarily for me, but the layoffs were coming. And so my pivot was to actually be a virtual assistant and to sign up to companies who are actually now our competitors. And during that time, while I was doing that, I was working 12-hour night shifts as a high angle foreman, going back to my camp, eating, maybe going to the gym, going to my room, sleeping for 4 hours, getting up and working for 4 or 5 hours, and going back and doing a 12-hour shift. And that's how I started building the MVP and the ICP around Virtual Gurus. I originally started calling myself a virtual guru, and that's actually what it was. And unbeknownst to me, that guru is quite a religious name. And it's a religious for people out in like India. And so I almost felt that I shouldn't have named it that. And a couple of times we have been asked to change the name, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. And the reason behind it is because we were all working remotely. The whole concept behind my company is remote work. Well, my whole operations is here downtown Calgary. I'm actually at my office now with all my staff. all of the people that work on the platform are working remotely from communities from afar. So we have communities, northern communities, communities everywhere where people don't have access to jobs. So they have to work remotely. And that was kind of our main point of hitting those people. So that's where we kind of started saying, you know what, we're virtual and we're all gurus because we can do everything from administration to marketing to sales to bookkeeping. And so that's virtual gurus kind of in a nutshell. But now what we've done is we've created some byproducts of it because it's actually considered to be a two-sided talent marketplace. So one side, we have an app that's actually called Ask Betty. So think along the lines of Ask Jeeves back in the days, but this is where you're asking Betty because Betty is a woman and women are amazing and the future is woman, right? So Betty is where you can just delegate one-off tasks by downloading the app directly through your Slack. And you can delegate one-off tasks, bite-sized tasks, 15-minute increments, just like an Uber model. Turn your model on when you want to work, turn it off when you don't want to work, and grab tasks as you need. But everybody is Betty. So Betty came around, and now that's kind of completed that side of the marketplace. And then we have our Virtual Gurus Academy, where all of the virtual gurus were coming through, and we have thousands of them in the system. The problem is we need to be able to make sure we're training them. So we've launched the first Virtual Guru Academy, Virtual Assistant Academy, which is by virtual assistants for virtual assistants. And that's at academy.thevirtualgurus.com. And so that kind of essentially completes the marketplace. And that's the scale is based on that marketplace. So kind of a long drawn out of where virtual gurus came from, but
wow, I love it. I feel like I have some questions for Ask Betty after this. Okay, how about you, April? You had kind of tapped in a little bit about the name of your business. So tell us how you came up with this business idea and the name.
Yeah, well, you know the name piece, and I am a very proud auntie, and I've been an auntie since I was 14, so it's a really important role. Love being a mom, but being an auntie is really fun. So I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I was expecting my youngest child, and I was put on bed rest by my midwives, and I started finally playing with all the beads and stones that I'd been collecting for years and not doing anything with. And I was already a professional designer. And so it was just like playing. I got to play with color, and we didn't have swipey iPads and iPhones at the time, or, you know, maybe this would never have happened, but I started making, and it grew very organically. People wanted to buy what I was making, and I was just making to give gifts. And people were saying, I'd like to give you money for that. And when I would go places, they'd say, do you have jewelry? So it kind of started itself. And, you know, our kids were really young. I didn't want to go back and work outside of the house. And I famously tell this story of how I have my original bead basket in my lap, sitting on the couch saying, I wish there was something I could do from home because I don't want to leave the kids. And there it was, literally in my lap. So when you're having that moment, guys, it's probably sitting right in front of you. And it was. So we have, that child is now 21 and in her third year at university. I've been designing and making jewelry for 20 years. And what happened was, as I entered into conversation with people, which is what design does, it opens a door to a dialogue. Women were saying awful things about themselves, like, that will never fit me, my neck's too fat, I'm not creative. And I was so hurt for them hearing these words. And I took it as a challenge. I thought, you know what, this isn't true. And so I started designing pieces that asked the wearer to do something, that they could adjust it. And I started with a lariat necklace. Well, the first show I did, I sold out. My husband was making them behind the curtain, and his hand would come through the curtain with a new one, and off they would go. And then about 10 years ago, I came up with this strand system, which is really kind of like, you know, Lego for jewelry. So, you know, our whole idea here is that you can do more with less. And so I know it seems counterintuitive, but really for our people, this makes so much sense. You know, it's a sustainable design. You take a few things like what I'm wearing, I can wear all kinds of different ways, and you get to play and create and travel lightly. So that's just a nutshell of a lot of years of development and learning and many websites and here we are.
Love it. I'm all about that jewelry and having it being accessible for us, and as women, we do struggle with that body issue, that body stuff. So to have jewelry that is customized to us and we can work with that jewelry, I think is like amazing. So thank you. All right, Vanessa, mindful managers. First of all, I love it because I'm all about that mindfulness. I'm all in the yoga and meditation world. So when I read this, I was like, yes. So tell us about your business idea and how you came up with the name. Let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. First of all, I loved hearing the origin story of virtual gurus and Lofttan. April, I didn't know yours was about you were on bed rest, and that's how you kind of got into the jewelry. Like that's amazing. So it's really thanks to your kids. If it wasn't for your kids, then and then Bobbie, I just see you being like Mission Impossible, like rappelling down all these equipments to like save people in a harness. Like that's so badass in your past life. But anyways, yeah, about me, mindful managers. So I'll take you on a bit of a story, a bit of a journey. My original game plan out of high school was to become a high school teacher. So that's initially what I was going to school for. So while I was in school, I landed a corporate job. And I ended up just staying at the corporate job. So I didn't pursue teaching, and I was in this corporate gig doing a 9 to 5, and I was there for 11 years, like working for a telecommunications company. And so I decided to go back to school to pursue business because I'm like, okay, well, I was going down the education routes, but now I'm in this corporation. Let's get some more formal business training. So at the time I got exposed to coaching, and I didn't know that was a thing, like professional coaching. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I didn't know that I could be that when I grew up. So that really sparked something for me. And I also learned about organizational behavior, which is the people side of business. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know this was a thing. And so that sparked something for me too. So now I started to get clear on what I wanted to be when I grew up, and started to tap into, okay, what are my gifts and are they being utilized in my current job? And they weren't. And so I finished business school. I did some coaching courses, and then I decided to do my master's degree. And when doing my master's, I focused on workplace spirituality and spiritual leadership. Yeah, Michelle, I'm like, yeah. So I didn't know that was the thing either. I'm like, holy shit. And so that was the focus of my master's degree. And I realized that bringing spirituality in the workplace is one form of decolonizing business, because working in a Western organization, a Western corporation for so long, we're invited to bring our minds and our bodies to work, but we're supposed to cut ourselves off from our emotion and our spirit. And then we know, like, teaching from the medicine wheel, to be whole, to be well, to be balanced, we need to have mind, body, emotion, spirit. And I sense that's why we see so much stress, so much like long-term and short-term leave, so much leave due to mental health. And I figured, if there's more genuine connections in the workplace, like genuine and meaningful connections to self, others, the land, and a higher being or a higher power, that could help to make workplaces more fulfilling. And that's my definition of workplace spirituality. So meaningful connections to self, others, the land, and or a higher being or a higher power. And even if you're an atheist, a higher being or a higher power could just be your higher consciousness, right? Your higher self. So it's really actually inclusive of all peoples, no matter what your belief system is. And so I decided, you know what, this corporate life isn't for me anymore. I'm going to leave. And so it felt like jumping out of an airplane without parachutes, because I didn't really have a backup plan. At the time, I had a few clients lined up in doing training and doing workshops and doing some coaching, but it definitely wasn't self-sustaining. But I'm like, you know what, screw it. And so I went all in the self-employed life. And yeah, and then the origins of the name Mindful Managers, first of all, I just like alliteration. So I like the MM, or just like two of the same letters. And for me, it is really about mindfulness, about being mindful about your leadership and being mindful how you show up, and being a good leader and doing leadership in a good way and doing business in a good way. And so that's that's how I landed on the mindful managers. And so my work really revolves around facilitation, speaking, and research.
I love that. I feel like I have so many questions for all three of you. This is why we're having the panel, yo. That's such an inspiration for what you're doing. You're right, because the burnout rates in business and in corporate and in, you know, front line is so high. So to be able to facilitate and teach and come from that holistic approach is like so vital, so important, so amazing. That's great. Okay, so the next question, really simple, is how long did it take for you to get to where you are today? I think, April, you kind of talked on that. We were sitting at that 20-year mark, but do you want to expand a little bit more on that?
So we were very conscious of building the business sustainably. I didn't want to scale quickly. My kids were younger, you know, newborn and 10 years old. And so this was just going to be bit by bit. So it wasn't until Aiden, my daughter, was 8 years old that we started doing juried shows. And that's when things really started to take off. And of course, that was 2008 when, oh my God, we know what happened to the financial markets. So like I say with COVID, I'm like, whatever, I've been through it. So we have been very intentional about, you know, going sustainably in our growth, not trying to overscale, grow too fast, explode, and then fall down. And our business is very difficult to scale in a big way. Supply chain's really difficult. So it's taken this much time, and that's okay. You know, we have this idea that it has to be like some kind of 30-second success story where you had the idea and now you're a millionaire. And the thing is, it's a journey, and the journey truly is the destination. The journey is wonderful, and the people that you get to meet along the way, and the things that you learn about business and about yourself. Like, being an entrepreneur is not for sissies. And, you know, you need your network, and it's not easy, you know, every day. I work for myself, but I'm like, oh, gulp, I have to do another post. And what if they don't like it, or whatever it might be? Like, I'm a human being. And so, you know, just going easy on yourself, and, you know, to what Vanessa was saying about decolonizing business. And I have been doing that all along, because, you know, people are like, you should do this. And I'm like, no, it's too fast. It's too much. I'm not trying to push people to like consume. I'm trying to grow with them, and like, let's bring our minds together and let's change how we look at this. Let's do this differently. So anyway, that's a very meandering answer to your question, but here we are. I've been designing and making jewelry for 21 years. However, officially in business since 2008. Before that, it was like kind of, you know, little bits here and there.
Just to jump on that quickly, April, I love how you say that you're very focused on slow fashion. And it just reminds me of you saying you want to do this sustainably. And I think slow fashion is one way to do that beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. And to encourage other people to know that that instinct they have inside to not buy all the time is okay, because look what you can do and look how you can repurpose. Yeah. Thank you for that, Vanessa.
That was great. And that was good for my heart to hear too, because, you know, if we look at social media, Instagram, you know, there, you know, all these people are just reaching millions, you know, tons of people online. And, you know, there's this sense of go, 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 go. But I really think, you know, if anything in COVID, we've learned just to like slow our roll, take in the moment, be mindful, be present in all we do, and not be so rushed to hustle it, right? Even though, you know, we have good stuff we're bringing to the world. Okay, how about you, Vanessa? What was your timeline? How long did it take you?
Well, similarly to what April was alluding to, it's a process, right? And I don't think you ever arrive. Some folks may look at, let's say, Jen from Cheekbone Beauty, and like, oh, that's where I want to be. But then, from Jen's perspective, she might just still be like, no, I want to go bigger. I want to keep expanding, right? So I don't know if you were ever like, oh yeah, I'm there, I'm complete. So I'm very much still growing, still developing my services. I left the corporate world. It's been about 2 or 3 years now. I've lost track of time because of COVID. Like like time's all screwy now. But yeah, so I left my corporate gig about 2 to 3 years now, and yeah, there's so much more I want to do. And like April said, it's something that you need to just really invest in. It's a big time investment because you don't get successful overnight. And for folks that, that you see doing really well, like virtual gurus, like getting so much success and so much recognition, but it's not as if like Bobbie's like, okay, starting the company, boom, now I'm super successful. It doesn't work like that, right? Like there's just so much work and effort behind the scenes that you don't see. So yeah, so just want to share that with the folks here and anyone who listens online, that if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, stick it out, and it's okay if it takes a while, and it will. And so yeah, so I would say that's where I'm at, and yeah, just excited to put more time and energy into what I'm doing.
Thank you. All right, Bobbie, we know that your business is growing. You've made the Forbes, top 19 under the most innovative tech startup, right? So you're growing, you're doing big things. So tell us, like, how long has it taken?
Well, I mean, I can definitely appreciate what April and Vanessa are both saying about slow your roll. As of lately, I felt completely overwhelmed in a way of, we are scaling fast. We're like, boom, and we are going into, well, we'll be double-digit millions here pretty soon, right? So it's a big amount. It's scary. I'm a new CEO. I just left oil and gas in 2016, and I started this with $300 in my pocket and had to get my parents to lend me money to pay my rent for the first year. Didn't even pay myself in 2017 or 2018. Lived off of EI, and then in 2019 I hit my first $1 million in revenue, and that's when I closed and started doing my first funding round, which was I raised 1.25 million of a seed round. So what makes me a little bit more different than the other two areas of skills or I guess industries is technology. You have to rely on raising capital to keep your tech going because it's very tech. There's a whole team behind it, right? So I have a whole tech team of 7 people. I've got a client success department. I've got a sales department. I've got a bookkeeping and management department. And then I've got my C-suites, my executives and my directors. And, and these are all people that work underneath me to keep the company going where we're at with 32 full-time staff right now. But by the end of Q1, we're going to be at over 50 employees, full-time FTE employees. So by probably Q2 of next year, we're going to be around 70 full-time employees. And then by the end of the year, we'll be about 120 full-time FTE employees. So we're at the part where I can't slow it down because we're backed by investors. We're backed by VCs, impact funds. And so they see the number size, they see that scale. And if we were to scale it or slow it down, then you lose that trajectory. And so you have to keep up with it, and then you have to continuously be focusing on the demand while also focusing on the supply on mine. So it's just like boom, 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 really fast moving. So the one thing that I think my take home from this question with listening to the other lovely ladies on here is slow your roll is really important, because even though we as a company are scaling, doesn't mean to me that I need to be hustling every single day and overworking myself as the CEO of it. And I need to be able to make sure I am setting culture safety and organizational safety with the culture, because if I'm doing that, then I'm showing them that it's okay for them to do that. And so I have to remind myself all the time, slow down. It's 4:30, go home and be with your partner, go relax. You don't need to be on the phone every day at home. You don't need to be answering investor emails all night long. They can wait till tomorrow. Watch your shows and Netflix binge all day, eat popcorn, and don't check your email, and I have to remind myself these things. And it's hard because there is no support for the people such as us that are in these worlds. And so I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that. So, yeah.
Amazing. Good lesson. Good tips right there. Yes. Okay. Next question is, what is a long-term goal of yours? So let's go with Vanessa.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say a long-term goal of mine is to decolonize business. We're right now we're just talking about like the hustle and the grind, and it's good as long as that serves you, right? But I think in our capitalistic world, there's almost there's a worship for being busy. You always have to be busy. You always have to be productive. Go, go, go. And I think that really lends itself to burnout. And one thing that I really admire and respect of the women in our lift circle, so the Indigenous women entrepreneurs that join our lift circle, so many are mindful about taking breaks and taking time off and knowing, okay, I've just invested so much of myself into my business right now at the expense of my family, even my health. I need to come back to me. And so taking a break from your business when it makes sense. I think that's part of decolonizing business, right? And knowing that we don't have to give in to this capitalistic machine. And so I know my mentor, Tira Fraser, she talks about, she has seasons. So she's go, 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 go. But then she'll have like a season where she just, takes a step back. And so however that looks for you. So just wanted to add that because it was relevant to our last conversation. But yeah, so just my goal is to be able to influence on in decolonizing business, doing business in a good way, and also have it attributed to Indigenous ways of knowing and being. I think when like trendy or new things come up, it somehow usually gets attributed to you're typically a white person or not a person of color, certainly not Indigenous peoples, but it's time to start honoring and crediting where this knowledge comes from, these ways of knowing and being. And really this way of decolonizing business stems from Indigenous ways of knowing and being connected to self, doing business in a good way, being mindful about sustainability, like April's talking about, being inclusive, like Bobbie's business practice, like being mindful of having people, especially people who've been like excluded or marginalized historically, and being mindful of the land and being mindful of 7 generations into the future. So like long-term thinking. So those are really all my goals, just these little things, and to have this kind of influence and impact in the world of business.
Beautiful. Bobbie, how about you? Long-term.
I mean, I take one day at a time. No, I think my long-term goals are, I know that virtual brews will most likely get acquired one day. It'll probably, I'll probably have an exit and be forced into an exit at our current trajectory and where we're at. So after that, I think my goals are to take what I've learned from taking a scale up from 0 to where I am in less than 5 years, and apply that to be able to mentor other young ladies to do that. And to be able to try to get some more tech, Indigenous and tech it's needed. Everybody has these ideas. There's so much tech out there to be done and had. And I would really like to be able to veer into that, possibly becoming an investor in trying to invest into some of the tech ideas that are out there floating around. I see that happening. I see it'll be a little bit probably of a less gray hair mode for me, because it's like a lot of stress comes to being the CEO of a large company like this. So it's something where I always hate saying this, but it's kind of lonely when you're a solo founder of something scalable like this, because you don't have somebody that you can just rant with about the happenings of the day. You don't have somebody where you can rant about your investors to, or you don't have somebody you can rant, none of that. You're fully on this path alone. It's great. It's a learning experience. I've been able to really learn a lot about myself internally. I've changed from who I was 5 years ago. I used to hitchhike across Canada and have dreads down to here and play bongos on a beach all day long. And then here I am doing this, right? So it's a whole different story for me now. And I really just, I love to learn. And so I just want to never stop learning, and wherever my path might lead, I respect that. I respect the path that I've been on right now. And I think that I'm honored that I essentially was chosen to be this accidental entrepreneur that started this. So I want to be able to pay that path forward now,
That's really great. That's really inspiring as well. I just said this morning, and I might mess this up. Vanessa, you might be able to help me on this, but there's a saying that is, take those steps and the path will appear, something like that. And I think, as entrepreneurs, as we're walking perhaps in uncharted territory as women, trusting, in Creator, trusting that the ancestors have our back, trusting, that the universe is going to conspire in our favor. So I just feel so inspired by listening to you. And how about you, April? Long-term goal?
Well, and that makes me think of, things are happening for you, not to you. And having that perspective is so helpful, and it takes you out of feeling like a victim. It's like, yeah, this is happening for me. So what is in here for me? Yeah. And thanks, ladies. I just love hearing what you're sharing. My long-term goal has always been to provide work for my community. And I'm so excited because I've been working so hard. You can ask Vanessa, she hasn't seen me for dust because I'm working, and I'm actually in conversation with a national retailer, and there are some big doings going on. I'm looking at contracts now and all this kind of stuff. So I'm so close to being able to hire my community. And that has always been the goal, right? Is like, as soon as I saw that I could do something with the business after that show where we sold out, and I was like, okay, I can wholesale, I can retail, la, la, la. That's it. Like, I can hire my community. These can be jobs for elders, for young parents, for teenagers, people working from home. They can be paid by the piece. Maybe they're going to design something that we add to the collection, and either we give them a royalty or we help them do their own business or whatever. But, it's always been about community. How can I put back into the community? Another goal that I'm working on actively is I'm building an arts scholarship fund in the name of my great-grandmother, who was our last family member in a residential school. And it's gonna, it'll cost us about $30,000 to endow a scholarship, and we're probably about $2,000 in now. So that's very exciting. And so long-term goal is to, and hopefully it won't take that long, is to have this scholarship in her name, because I truly believe in the medicine of creativity. I really do. And that's our brand is all about that. I always say I'm a creativity facilitator. That's my gig, is just giving people permission to play and create and change their mind. And so these are all the goals, but to be getting this close now to being able to hire the community is like 2022 is going to be the year it happens. So very, very excited that at last, but I can't tell you who it is or anything like that, but yes. That's
well, we're excited for you. Woohoo!
Thank you so much.
So wow, time is like just flowing by. So I have a couple more questions. Feel free, for those who are here listening, use that chat box for any questions, because I have a feeling we'll have but 5 minutes for questions. So use that chat box. One thing that I heard Vanessa and Bobbie say was mentorship. So this is kind of off the cuff, but can you take a moment and maybe talk about a mentor? I think mentorship is so important. A mentor that you've had in your life, And, you know, I think it's important for us also to be mentors, to bring that teaching to the young people as well. So one moment, tell us about a mentor. Let's go, Vanessa.
Sure. So since I mentioned her before, but I'll bring her up again. Tira Fraser, I know April, you know Tira well. Bobbie, you're nodding your head. Maybe you know Tira. She's a Métis woman, the first woman to own an airline. Like she has her own airline in Canada. Like how crazy is that? So I mentioned during my master's degree, and how I met her is I really wanted to do my master's research for an Indigenous organization. So I had a professor, and she's like, oh, I think I know the organization. And so my professor introduced me to Tira and Kiana, who ran and founded the Raven Institute. And so and it's that's where we started, and just it's bloomed from there. So I did my master's research for them, and then they do Raven Speak, which is an Indigenous speaking program, an Indigenous public speaking program. So I was brought onto that, and I just learned so much. And the thing I really value about Tira is how heart-centered she is, and she leads with love, and working in a very male-dominated industry like aviation, very white, very male, and she proudly wears a big pin that says love. You know, I don't think the aviation industry is used to that. So I just love how she's just bringing herself to it, and she named her airline Esqueo Air, so woman air. Like, yeah, and what's not to love? So she's been a big influence in my life in just terms of leadership and just career and entrepreneurship.
Love that. I love those serendipitous connections that come across our path at the right time. So that sounds like it was one of those moments. Bobbie, how about you, mentor?
So right now, my mentor that I look up to immensely is actually Minerva Tatanka. She's the first person of color CTO of New York City. So she's the CTO of all of New York, not just the New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street, or whatever. She's the CTO of the whole government, basically, and she was actually assigned to me through the International Women's Foundation. So I was nominated last year to represent Canada at the IWF, where we learned to become world leaders. And so 32 women are in my cohort, and I'm the only Canadian, I'm the only Indigenous person. So we travel now, so I'll be off to France right away. And then I'm getting a degree from INSEAD and then from Harvard, and basically learning about the how to become a world leader. And then my Minerva, my mentor, is mentoring me through all this. And throughout the whole year program, I have to build a legacy project. So that's where Minerva comes in. And the best part is that she knows a lot about AI and machine learning, which is what we're doing on this side, is building that into our tech. So I really, really do lean on her, because as a first colored woman to be in her area is huge. And she has, I don't know, probably 4,000 employees underneath her. So it's been amazing. But I do look up to multiple people, but right now she's definitely the big one for me. So.
Woohoo! All right. And April, tell us about any mentor in your life.
Oh my gosh, I've been sitting here trying to think of one name, and honestly, like, it's a kaleidoscope of people. And I mean, it's the same thing that I feel every person I meet is my teacher. And so there's mentoring that happens all the time. I could say Vanessa has been a mentor. I could say all the women in the Lift circle have been mentors. I have a couple of women here in Ontario that are other Indigenous entrepreneurs that, you know, we share knowledge, and we have those conversations Bobbie was talking about, where you're like, you know, Jen Harper is one of them. But really everybody, like now, Michelle, you are, because I'm learning from you. So I feel like there's that opportunity to learn and grow in every interaction that we have, because it's all sacred. All life is sacred, and creator is in all those moments. So I can't just pick one.
It's like that saying, saying that it takes a village, when it comes to raising the child, it takes a village. It's the same as running a business. Like when people say that to me, I'm like, it's not just me running this business. Not only do I have a team, but it's all the mentors, all my advisors, my investors. And, it takes a village, even though sometimes you feel alone, you're actually really never alone. But
And can I just say a pet peeve of mine is when people say, oh, I'm self-made. No, you're not. Like, you are where you're at because of all the people behind you, because of your ancestors, because of like the one interaction you had with the mailman that said something to you and it sparked something for you. You know what I mean? So like, no one's self-made. Like, that's such BS. We're influenced by so many people.
It all matters. And so that's why I couldn't just pick one. I'm like, everybody, they're informing what I do. Like I said earlier, my designs came out of that dialogue that happens with people and people talking smack about themselves. And I'm like,
Yeah.
So everyone can be your mentor, I guess.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so what have you learned while adapting virtually, right? So we've lived it through this pandemic. We're slowly, it's unrolling, coming out of it. So what have you learned while being in that pandemic, and how to operate your business virtually? So let's April.
Oh my God. So much. I've learned so much. Obviously learned a lot of tech. I'll never catch up to Bobbie, but yeah, there's been a lot of tech. I mean, really, one of the big lessons that has come home is just how important it is to allow yourself to be supported. To what Bobbie was saying before about, feeling lonely, it can be, you can feel very isolated, and under the circumstances of COVID, that might be exacerbated. And so I was really forced to, open to that support, and it was there, the lift circle was there. My homies were there, and that is a beautiful thing. Like, I am a great giver, but I've really had to learn the art of receiving. And I'm still working on that. But so those are some of my takeaways.
I'm right with you on that. Vanessa, how about you?
As a facilitator and a workshop designer, I think one of my biggest revelations is it's possible to create like really meaningful, safe, sacred connections online. And I've been part of like so many like training programs or facilitations or circles where you have that like heart-centered connection. Like, I've never met April face to face, but like, I feel like her energy, like I just love April, even though her and I have never been in the same room together, but we've just been in virtual circles. And our whole Lift Circle community, it feels like such a tight sisterhood, even though the majority of us haven't met. And I've been in other programs where like the cohort are like, wow, we didn't think like this would work, but like this is so cool, and that we get to meet people from all over Turtle Island, right? Because whereas before the pandemic, you just meet people like in your area. So obviously nothing beats face-to-face interaction. I love that. We all love that, but there is something to be said about having spaces online that it can be heart-centered and supportive, and you can still have really beautiful moments and connections online.
Yeah, that's definitely a takeaway of mine. When I first had to move everything online, I was like, I like modern technology. What is this? I was all about, in person, and it was such a huge learning curve for myself. But this feels like it's your world, Bobbie. This feels like it's your world. So what have you learned through this?
Yeah, I mean, because we're a virtual business and we're remote, but our operations, we're also very much in the office. Well, we're back now, but I mean, I think the number one thing that I learned was, and it's mostly probably a little bit more of a leadership thing on me, But when you have everybody in the office and everybody's working around you and you've got all this stuff happening and the meetings going, you don't necessarily see some of the mental health issues that could happen because you're there in person and people put kind of that more of that front on and you know, whereas when you're working remotely, mental health is real. We had you know, being in not only a fast scale up where a lot of businesses were losing their clients and or were, you know, unfortunately closing down or, you know, people were struggling. We were the exact opposite. We did a 200%, 17% year over growth during the first year of COVID. And we were scaling. We went from a 5-person team to a 30-person team over COVID. And so it was really difficult for us. But those people are all working remotely, trying to learn how to deal with the skill as well. And that's when the reality set in of, we had a few issues come up where I was like, you know what, I'm a bad leader because I am not seeing those or recognizing those. And I needed to have conversations to remind people it's okay not to be okay. It's okay because you don't have to get on the Zoom and put a face on every day if you don't want to. You don't have to do this. You know, your mental health and what's going on in your family is more important than this. And, you know, it was something where it was more of a leadership thing for me of understanding that the reality of that versus the over the Zoom and trying to figure out people's mental health issues and making sure that you're creating a safe environment for them while you're still doing that. And that was really difficult to do when you're scaling from like 1 to 10 million in revenue within a year. So it's really a difficult part. But that and then the last thing is probably that I took for granted how the morning commute is a part for me that is important for my day. Putting my headphones on and commuting to actual work and having that kind of Zen moment to myself or going to the gym. Whereas my morning commute at home, it was so easy to just go from my office to my bedroom to the office and get my coffee and just sit there, right? And then I took it for granted and things like weight gain and this and that. And so it was like, yeah, you know, I took that for granted. And so I think it was important to understand that. So we started having our team all do morning like workout sessions on Zoom and we're all doing exercise and but, yeah.
That's awesome. And I just heard in that, you know, finding that balance, you know, and I think, you know, we also learned as a society, mental health and how that matters and how we need to talk about it. So finding that beautiful balance. And then Patricia just wrote in the comment section, the COVID-15 is a real thing. Yep.
It is real.
Or no, Vanessa said that. Sorry, Patricia, I didn't mean to put that on you. Okay, so we're down to like 5 minutes. So quickly, if you could say one thing that for a young upcoming entrepreneur, what advice would you give? So quickly, because we still want to create a moment for any question that might be out there from our audience. So Vanessa, you first.
For me, it's if you're thinking about it, just start, just try, and just know that you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself, and it's okay to take your time, and it's okay to fail, and it's okay to experiment, and you're gonna mess up, and that's okay. That's part of the learning. So you know, if there's something you're interested in, just go for it. So worst case, it doesn't work out, and that's okay too. But it's just always good just to see what's possible, and you know, if you have a little spark, it's worth to test it out. So I would say that, and just go where your heart is leading you.
So just go for it. Love it. April, your word of advice.
Well, it would be something similar to that, but Vanessa's heard me talk about this before. I really believe, pardon my language, but it's important. Fucking up really matters, because when you fuck up, the gold is in your fuck up. There's so much gold in a fuck up. So get messy, get in there. If it's something that you just can't help it, it's like, I'm a singer, I can't help it, I'm going to sing songs. Go sing the songs. And if you fall flat at the gig, man, you're going to learn something. So, you know, you don't turn it into a thing to beat yourself up. You're like, okay, what data did I just get? Because from the gold, from the poo, this is where the flower, this is where the lotus grows up from the mud. Let the shit happen. Get in there. And yeah, there are, fuck up nights. Bobbie's just putting that in. They had them in person before that. It was a big thing. Like go to fuck up night, tell about your fuck up story, because that's where the gold is. That's where you're going to get your best ideas and your best learning. So go ahead and get messy. Don't be afraid. That's my advice. Giddy up.
Yes. Yes.
Mic drop
Okay,
that.
Bobbie, how about you?
That's awesome. I think, mine is I don't fit the typical mold of looking like a CEO of a large scale up, and I have full arm tattoos, and I'm queer, and stuff like that, and I don't shy away about it. It's all the media. People know that I'm gay, and I'm like, hey, this is me. I'm going to be me, because if I can actually motivate and inspire somebody else just to go and be them, then my job here is done. One person a day. My mom's quota is inspire one, inspire a nation, right? So my thing is always be yourself. If you're in a business and you feel, so that, like, be yourself, because that's when you're going to do your own true best, is by being yourself. I've pitched many investors who have asked me to change being who I am, and I would pack up my stuff and say, you know what, you're not the best investor for me, and I would leave, because that's not what I'm about to do. I don't not ever do that. I wear t-shirts and jeans every day to work, and today I'm not, but I do, and it's like that's what I do, because that's what makes me feel good. It makes me perform better. It makes me be who I am. And so don't ever shy away and try to change yourself. Be who you are, and like be bold about it. Be brave, and just be you.
Hi. Creator made only one of you. So show up, do it up. So yes, thank you so much. I feel I'm walking away so inspired by all of you. Thank you so much. I know you're all busy. You're boss babes out there doing your thing. So thank you so much for lending your time here to be part of this panel. We have just but a moment. Also check that chat box. Vanessa just dropped a cool program that you might think there's some young people in your life who can benefit from this. So check out that link. Ken also put Canada Post. So they're doing, okay. So Canada Post, who values Indigenous content, has a RFP open to the MERX website now, closing a year from now, for multiple standing offer agreements for business consulting services. So Canada Post is doing some things on their end, some really good things on their end. We have time for perhaps one question. Anybody have a question? Maybe want to put your hand up. But I feel like we're all really inspired. I feel like I'm thinking, I'm still digesting all of the stuff that you have shared about today.
Can I just say one more thing? I always say to other Indigenous entrepreneurs, don't forget you have a superpower, and it is that you are Indigenous. You have a superpower. You're scrappy as hell. There's no door that you can't walk through. So just remember that, you've been faced with how many barriers. I say I eat them for breakfast. So remember that you have a superpower.
Yes. And Ken, I don't know if you saw that in the chat box. If there's a link that you have regarding what you had posted, please put that link in the chat box. But I see there's no questions. We're just walking away really inspired and very moved by your story, and motivated also by your story. So thank you all for being here. I feel so honored and just full of gratitude. So as we go on the rest of our day, may you walk in a way that honors first and foremost, Creator. And yourself, the world around you, Mother Earth, all of our relations, all of our relatives, and honor that fire that Creator has given to you, that gift that Creator has only given to you. So walk in a good way, have a good rest of the day. And thank you so much for being here. I just feel so honored. So thank you. Peace.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle.